Channel 9 News has been working for Cincinnati on television since 1959.
Channel 9.
We'd actually been on the air since 1949, but it was 10 years before management decided to add news. Remember, in those days, no one knew if television would catch on.
Al Shuttlecotty here. Stand by for the news.
In 1959, Al Shuttlecotty helped change all that.
President Eisenhower held his first news conference in 6 weeks today.
Al was a 33-year-old Inquirer columnist and radio broadcaster when Channel 9 General Manager Mort Waters hired him to set up our TV newsroom. Al also anchored the day's only newscast, 15 minutes at 11 o'clock.
11 o'clock and time for the Al Shuttlecotty News, brought to you tonight and every night by the Future Now shop in Kentwood, where one day they'll have computers small enough to put in your pocket. Now, with the news, here's Al Shuttlecotty, featured columnist of the Cincinnati Enquirer.
After years of ignoring the subject, Cincinnati City Hall today took the first definite step toward the building of a convention hall.
The news sounded about the same in those days, but it sure looked different. The staff of 3 had no blueprint, so they developed a style of television news coverage as they went along.
Great news for Cincinnati slum clearance program today.
One thing Al knew, he wanted lots of pictures, so the film cameras and processors were always busy at our Walnut Hill studios. Al was busy too. Here he is shaving before a show.
All my life I've been waiting. Tonight there'll be no hesitating, no boy.
As Cincinnati grew in the 60s, Al's credible shows got noticed. News editor Al White was a member of the first Shuttlecotty team.
But with this, we had to maintain a high degree of integrity, which we did. And for all during the Shuttlecotty years, we had that high degree of integrity, and we were believable, and we were viewed upon as the no-nonsense, the caring television news station in Cincinnati.
In 1961, Shuttlecotty quit the Inquirer to work full-time in television. It was a smart move. His show would be #1 for the next 22 years. 9 News grew up fast in the 1960s. There was Cincinnati's first live remote from the Newport corruption trial of future Sheriff George Ratterman.
Good evening. President Eisenhower has changed plans for
new shows, new staff, and more attention. New cars arrived. You couldn't miss our crews in their stylish black and gold Ford Mustangs. It all kept us on top of the newsmakers of the day. 1964, the WCPO microphone was there for the Beatles.
How do you explain the reaction of teenagers to your type of music, the various feelings that you instill in them?
I don't know, I have the same feelings about our type of music as they do. I'm not a teenager. I've just liked this kind of music for about 8 years or since it came out. It's just good, good fun.
We followed Robert Kennedy in Indiana. Lyndon Johnson dedicated Thomas More College, and Harry Truman on a local visit.
When are you going to slow down from this pace? I don't know what I'm going of any unusual pace. I'm going just like I always did.
I find today's groundbreaking for the new studios of WCPO TV a deeply gratifying event.
In 1967, Channel 9 moved here to 5th and Central downtown. It was more than just a new building. It marked the beginning of the modern era of news coverage.
Things really took off in 1967.
Meet Channel 9's Newsbird, the newest full-time addition to our news staff.
The Newsbird, Cincinnati's first news helicopter, went up. Later we flew the Newshawk, and today it's Chopper 9. 9 News could not have been hotter in the 70s. Al Shuttlecotty's team flew into this decade as the news leader in town. When a local man said he recovered stolen Rembrandts, he called Al.
Mr. Warrington, this is the Rembrandt?
This is the Rembrandt portrait of the woman, yes.
And made the delivery on the 11 o'clock news. By this time, 24 people were on staff, complete with Cincinnati's first video equipment and live remote truck. Ronnie Fisher has been a photographer since 1966.
We were always the first to bring back the pictures. The people
in town could rely on Channel 9 to always, if something was going on in town, they knew they could tune in Channel 9 and see what exactly was happening at all times.
Major stories tested the newsroom in the mid and late 70s. Tornadoes in 1974, the Beverly Hills Supper Club fire in 77, and deaths at a Who concert in 79.
Get the whole news picture with John Esther.
News competition got tougher in the 80s. Channel 9 added new faces, and the women of 9 News began to get attention.
This is 9 News Watch at noon with Betsy Ross.
Good afternoon.
Channel 9 made news in 1980. Gunman James Hoskins forced his way into the newsroom and held hostages for 8 hours.
It seems like the things you should be covering, you don't cover. You never come into the area unless somebody gets wasted.
Hoskins eventually let everyone go and killed himself. Assignment manager Tom McKee remembers a moment alone after it was all over.
I had time to think for a second, and it was spontaneous. I didn't think about it. I got out of the way of where everybody was and just broke down for a few minutes just to let out some of the pressure.
The beginning of Harvey's unmasking as a serial killer was a Channel 9 investigation.
We broke the Donald Harvey story. The Drake Hospital worker was indicted in the deaths of 25 patients. It earned 9 News a reputation for investigative reporting that continues today with the I-Team. Al Shuttlecotty passed the microphone in the 1980s, leaving it with some of the folks still running things today.
And now you can even get us on the internet, a new technology, which is where all of this started. You see, television was a new technology too, back in the 40s and 50s. At 9 News, we like to think our integrity has been the thread through the years. We'll keep that in mind as we enter the new century.
That's it for now. Until tomorrow night at 11, may it all be good news to you.
The University of Cincinnati.
It's been 50 years of charting the stars, weathering the storms, and following the dribble of Cincinnati sports. Sports coverage has been an important part of what you see on Channel 9.
In fact, that was